On this channel, I usually talk about my weight loss journey, and one of the things that really helped me get through that period of my time is reading. And I love to read. I'm a fantasy reader. This year I've also been reading classics and horror. I like darker books, to be honest. Yeah, that is one of the things that really helped me get through being depressed and being overweight. Yeah, I'm gonna go over some of the books that I have. I am in the middle of moving, and so I only have a selection of books with me. When I was 13, I went camping with my family, and I had the first copy of Hunger Games with me, and I devoured it. It was the first fiction book that I ever read, and since then, reading has really been downhill. You know, like the Hunger Games books are incredible, and so that was really like, I've really been chasing that high ever since I was 13. I did stop reading after then, and then I didn't get back into it, like I said, until 2019. But this is a very strong series to start with as a young reader. This year I've been rereading the books because I want to read Haymitch's book that just came out. And I read the first 2 books this year, and I'm on Mockingjay. Just very nostalgic. This is really where my reading life began, as I'm sure many of you did too. You know, Hunger Games was like everything. And yeah, so I'm rereading the Hunger Games. This is the book that I'm actually reading at the moment. The first book was really good. I read it when it came out, and I read it actually a few times. It was like so good. And then the second book came out, and I was in New Zealand, and I didn't like it as much, if I'm being honest. It took me a long time to get through, and it was still really good. Like at points it was like awesome, but I just remember that it took me a long time. And now I'm reading Onyx Storm. I did start this when I was in New Zealand when it came out, but I didn't finish it. So now I'm finishing it. I was severely depressed and I read in 2021, 2022, I read all of Sarah J Maas's books. As I'm sure if you're a reader that you obviously know who this is, and I read all of her books. My mum is a fantasy reader as well, and she also read her books. And this is my favorite one, I think, because I relate to Nesta. Whether that's a good or a bad thing, I don't know, but I really related to her journey. And I also, Cassian, I love Cassian, and yeah, this is probably one of my favorite books. As you can tell, it's been read quite a few times. One thing about me is that if I read a book that I love, I like to keep the copy. You know, I wish I had the first copy of the Hunger Games book that I read, but I don't know where it went. You know, having the copy that you read the first time is so much different to buying this book again and keeping a copy because you love it. Like, I like to have the first book. So this is my copy of A Court of Silver Flames, top 3 book. Another book that I love of hers is the first Crescent City book. That book is awesome. I don't know about the rest of that series, but the first Crescent City book is really good. And I also like, from the Throne of Glass series, I like the Assassin Blade novellas. I actually re-listened to those like a year or 2 ago on audiobook, and those are really well done. I haven't read those books in a very long time, so I don't know, but yeah. This year, I've also read 5 of Stephen King's books. It's the first year that I've, well, apart from On Writing, it's the first year that I've actually read his books, and I've read On Writing for like the 2nd or 3rd time. I've read It, I've read Pet Sematary, I've read the first book of the Dark Tower series, and Misery. let me just tell you something. Misery is my favorite book of this year. That book is so good. I'm a cleaner, and I was cleaning an office building, which is like sort of like a factory sort of thing, while I read that book. It was like a really creepy place to read that. It was like on audiobooks, right? And I'm listening to Misery, and I can't explain how well he wrote Annie. I think that she is one of the greatest characters that I've read, and I just wanted to, oh my god, I was so loving that book when I was in it that yeah, it only took me like 2 days to get through, and my god, is that a well done book. I love that book. Anyway, so I've read 5 of his books this year, and I am a writer. I do write fantasy. Really good. If you're a writer, this is a really good thing to read. I've taken a lot from it. I've also read it on audiobook. I do recommend. This is my favorite franchise. My sister really likes Star Wars, and I really fuck with Lord of the Rings. I am a nerd, I guess. I love fantasy, I love weird shit, and I love Lord of the Rings. When you grow up misunderstood, you kind of search for comfort in media and art, and I love the world of Lord of the Rings. I'm sure many of you do as well, but yeah, I love Lord of the Rings. I actually, these are the copies that I've read. I read The Hobbit when I was in Scotland in 2022. This is the copy that I read, and so that's why I still have it with me. And then this is the copy that I read at the start of this year. I'm probably gonna keep these books in my collection, hopefully for a very long time. I haven't read Brandon Sanderson yet. I'm gonna start with The Way of Kings. And then I also have Skyward, which is like a young adult series that he has, and it's written in first person, I think. Yeah, it's a young adult series that he's also written that I have with me, that I'm looking forward to. Sorry, I just blanked out. I'm gonna start with The Way of Kings. I don't know, I've had these books for a very long time and I really want to get to them. Another fantasy book that I read this year is Red Rising. I'm on the 2nd book at the moment. I'm actually reading them on audiobook, but I do have this copy with me that I think I might donate. I don't know why I brought it with me. I've already read it, but yeah, this is a really good series. Another really good book is The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. If you like English humor, then this book is so hilarious. It's so good. It's actually a whole bunch of novellas, and I've only read 2 of them. That's why I still have it with me, because I really want to get through it. But it's so funny and so well done. Like, so funny. I've never read anything quite as hilarious as this. I'm actually rewatching Game of Thrones right now, and I want to read the series. Here's the thing though, I'm pretty sure I read that he doesn't know if he's going to finish them, and that's really disappointing. 2 things though. First thing is that I feel really bad for him, because he would have so much pressure on him to finish that series, and he's old and he can't probably enjoy his life because he has such stress on him, you know, and he probably has so much personal, that would just be a massive weight on his shoulders to finish those books, and he wouldn't even be able to enjoy the end of his life because he would just constantly be like, I have to finish these 2 books. On the other hand though, I think that it's really terrible if he didn't finish them. You know, he started this series and it's been such a long time since he put out the last book that, you would think that it would have already been done, even though, I mean, over 10 years is enough time to write a book. So that's why I guess I've put this series off, is because I know that I would get to the 5th book and be like, you know, like, damn, it wasn't finished. But those are the fantasy books that I have with me. Pretty generic, you know, I don't have anything crazy. I kind of stopped reading fantasy romance because I haven't been in a romance mood. And I've also read a lot of popular fantasy books because I am a fantasy writer. And so reading is really like the best way to learn. If you are a writer, you want to read books that are going to help you become a better writer. Reading is the ultimate tool for being better at writing, you know? And so I did start with like popular fantasy and fiction, and I've read, you know, all of the popular ones. Another great fantasy writer that I love is Naomi Novik. I read her Uprooted book. That was the first fantasy book that I read in 2019 that got me back into reading. So she's awesome. And recently I read One Dark Window, but I didn't read the second book because I gave the books to my sister. So yeah, I've read A Song of Achilles. That was awesome. I've read a whole range, but reading for me has also been a way to become a better writer. And I hope to get to a point where I just read for fun again, which is why I've been reading Stephen King. I've really been like loving that because I'm just reading for fun. There's nothing better when you're just so dissociated and into a book and just having a good time that you forget about the world for a little while, you know. Anyway, these are the last books that I have with me. I'll show you. Some of these I have read. Oh my god. So I have read these 3. So we've got Jane Eyre, Frankenstein, and The Picture of Dorian Gray. I'm actually going to donate these books to the Airbnb that I'm staying in right now. I don't know why I brought them with me, to be honest. I think I'm ready to part ways, but all 3 extremely good classics and like must-read classics. I read her book, The Goldfinch, in New Zealand, and she's an incredible writer. Practical Magic, I haven't read this, but I love that movie. I love anything with like witches. Yeah, I love witchy stuff. I love vampire stuff. I have Dracula. This is the copy that I read, and I'm actually gonna keep this. Even though it's like so damaged, like the actual film of the cover came off, but this is the version that I first read. Other books that I want to read is Demons by Fyodor Dostoevsky. I did start this, but you really have to be locked in when you read these books because they are heavier. Like, it's not an easy read, and you really have to like lock in. And then There Were None by Agatha Christie. I'm really intrigued by her as a writer. And then this is my favorite book of all time, Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. This is also persuasion. When I went through my childhood stuff, I actually had to read this at school, I think. And this was this is a very old copy. I haven't read this. I didn't read it at school. I didn't read it at school, oh my god. The 2005 version of Pride and Prejudice is iconic. It's everything. It is this. I don't know, this last year I have not been romantic at all, and it's only when I watch Pride and Prejudice do I think, wow, I wish I had a man in my life. I love the yearning. I love Mr. Darcy, and I love this book. And the 2005 version of Pride and Prejudice is just, it's just everything. When he flexes his hand in that scene because he's touched her skin, it's an experience that I cannot explain. He just shows up to her house and he's all kerfuffled because he's like, I have so much to say to her and I don't know what to even start with. and then he confesses his love, but he just absolutely scrutinizes her, and then she's like, you've just diminished me in every single way possible. And then he's like, well, I didn't mean to, I love you, marry me. And she's like, no. I could go on. I love Jane Austen. I've read Emma and I've read Sense of Sensibility, but I haven't read Persuasion. I did not read as a kid, like at school ever. So I'm gonna keep these, of course. I have these books that aren't, well, I suppose they're fiction, but they're not. Anyway, I'm at the moment doing research on King Arthur for something that I'm writing, and I'm really intrigued by that entire storyline, and yeah, and the history around that. Like, it's fiction, but it's cool, and I have yet to read this, but I've read a few other things just for like learning purposes. I have a witch's journal, and there are witchy things in the book that I'm writing at the moment, and I'm also a very intuitive person, and I haven't been able to get rid of this, and so I think that there is just stuff in here that I might need, you know? Yeah, I just feel like there's some stuff in here that might help me in the future with my writing. This is the Book of Shadow Work. I have read this before. Shadow work is really interesting. I've also done a lot of personal healing, and Carl Jung is incredible, interesting take on the shadow side of ourselves and coming to terms with us as an entire person, not just the light that we show other people, but the darker sides and like the deeper sides that we hide, and coming to terms with the fact that we aren't just the lighter side. We aren't just what we show the world. We are also, the other side of us is also equally as important. And shadow work is like integrating the darker sides with the lighter sides. I'm butchering this, but it's coming to terms with us as an entire person. Shadow work is really interesting if you want to do some research. This was really good. The Bible, I am very spiritual. I have been since I was young. I got into spirituality. I had like my first spiritual awakening when I was quite young, because I used to spend a lot of time by myself. It's a long story, I'm not going to get into it right now, but I did buy a copy of the Bible because I also do believe in God, but I'm not religious. I grew up going to Christian schools, and I don't know, there's a lot about religion that I just can't really fuck with, if I'm being honest. And I bought a Bible because I was like, you know what, I grew up reading the Bible at school and going to chapel every week, and I thought having a higher perspective, reading it from like who I am now compared to being like this vulnerable child would be an interesting experience. And I only got one chapter, well, one, what are they called? Are they called chapters? I can't remember. I only got like through one, whatever the hell, before I wanted to throw it. And that's just my take on the Bible at the moment, so I haven't really been able to get through it. Anyway, that is my collection of books. There is no romance here apart from Jane Austen. I have read quite a lot of romance. It's just this last year I've really tried to like decenter romance and lock in with my hobbies and intellectual pursuits and myself. And I haven't really been in the mind frame of allowing myself to have romance in my life because I've got so much other stuff going on. And so romance is just kind of taken a back burner, but I am a hopeless romantic at heart. Feel free to give me any book recommendations that you have. Or if you have like a favorite that you would be like, hey, I think that you would love to read this, let me know in the comments, or just what you're currently reading. I'd be interested to know. And yeah, I'm gonna leave this here. So thank you for watching if you made it to the end, and I will see you in the next video.